Hello everybody and welcome to the Autobahn Sportscar here at Motegi for the 9th round of our championship, the second round here in Japan this season, and we're starting a little bit late. Apologies for that, but we're just a couple of moments into this race. My name's Dion O'Leary. I'll hopefully be alongside Steve Proudly for this race. Not sure if Steve's here because we're a bit late getting things set up, but here we are. It's a couple of minutes in at the moment. It's obviously another circuit or another race in the night under the lights here and the headlights shining as always here today. But yeah, Steve, good to be back. We're a bit late, but we're here.
Yes, somebody's changed the clocks, I think, somewhere. But it's good to be here, mate. It's good to be here. It's another good track, isn't it? And it's looking very, very hectic out there this evening, and it's looking like the usual sort of candidates are at the top of the table again. We've got Jeffrey Humes up in with the prototypes there, setting the pace 2 seconds clear already. We've got Haley in the pro class. That class is so competitive. The GT pros and AMs, they are very, very tight week in, week out, aren't they, Ewan?
Certainly are. It is indeed very, very close with those categories, and it's going to prove to continue to be, I feel. In terms of their championships, by the way, they've got a little bit more spread out, especially in pro, but the AM one certainly still very, very close between Ryan Robertson and Kevin O'Keefe, who will be keeping our eyes on here today. Just 5 minutes in then, Jeffrey Humes is leading by a couple of seconds right now. Billy Smith, the winner from 2 weeks ago, is currently second. Robert Tinsley's third at the moment, with Carter Kuninger in fourth. Of course, the real fight in the championship beginning to be between Billy Smith and Carter Kuninger. Smith took quite a lot of points out of Kuninger, who made a couple of mistakes a couple of weeks ago at Suzuka. Smith obviously able to capitalise on that with a race victory. So yeah, he's running well at the moment, and yeah, it looks like he's set to take more points off him here today. If the race were to finish right now, obviously take a few more points off. And Smith beginning to pull away in his quest to become a two-time champion of this series, of course, in the LMP2 category.
Yeah, I mean, the circuit this evening, Ewan, I think it possibly lends itself a little bit better to this type of multi-class racing. It's quite wide. It's still got its tight twists here and there, but there's a little bit more sort of real estate, a little bit more tarmac for them to get around each other. So might just play into the hands a little bit better for the prototypes to work their way through the traffic, and you know, they're already coming round now by the looks of it, and getting ready to start lapping some cars.
Yeah, time will tell. Because we're nearly with the lapping of cars now. About 12 seconds up the road from Smith is the last of the GT AM cars, so we'll be watching that as it goes along. Here's Dan Neese, of course, had a fantastic start to the season all those weeks ago, but has fallen off recently, really. You've got to say, currently, where is he in this championship? All the way down in 7th place now, after starting off so well. But yeah, still not bad. We go on board with him now as we go under the bridge here, and through turns 12, 13 and 14 to spit us out onto the front straight once more. Not a figure of 8, by the way. We go under the oval, twin ring Motegi, not called that for no reason. It used to have an oval that used to be used. Now they just park cars on it sometimes for some reason. So I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, it's still there. And yeah, it doesn't get raced on anymore, but we do go under it, and yeah, it's one of those unique circuits. It's quite a flat circuit, and it's quite a simple one on paper, really. But there's plenty of places to overtake and whatever. So it's not a bad circuit for racing, as hopefully we'll get a view on here tonight. And as you mentioned, the multi-class traffic is going to be a little bit easier as well. But don't often see too many sports car races around here. I think Super GT is really the only thing I've seen come around here. Not too many sports car series really come here very often, so it's a bit of a trip into the unknown.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a full attack track, isn't it? You can just see from these great shots on board with Nice now, and it's you know, it's all about carrying that speed. There's some really, really fast corners here, and it's all about commitment and getting that entry line just right to allow you to carry the full throttle through the corner and really, you know, maximise that entry and corner speed, and obviously carry that speed through onto the next straight. But Dan Neese doing a pretty good job, and it's, you know, he's the one driver I've been watching all season and waiting for him to click click back into gear, and it's just not happening for him at the moment. And again, he obviously made, apologies, we missed the quali, but not looking like he had the best of qualifying, down in 8th place at the moment, just got that 8th, and making his way forward again. So it'll be interesting to see what Dan Neese can do. He's the man that very much fell off the edge of the performance cliff a good few rounds ago now, and he's yet to find that form again, as we just couldn't cut back to a replay.
Let's have a couple of looks at things that have been happening. Bradley Salmon trying to get round the final corner, just having a quick trip through the gravel and onto the grass as well. This is Dan Neese. This might explain something. Went off the road a little bit earlier on. Does he grab the barrier here? Just like it's like he's stayed out of that one. But either way, not particularly helpful to be running out wide there. It'll be that's why he's back into 9th position. This is Mark Kedrowski, and he's going around at the S's section there. One of the very few, if not only, high-speed corners at this circuit. Really, it's a very stop-start circuit, slow-speed corners everywhere. That's pretty much the only high-speed section, and even that you can't really call it high-speed, can you? More medium speed, to be honest. But those GT cars not quite going to enjoy it as much as these prototypes. Definitely, we know about their lack of grip, particularly in the downforce department. And it looks like the Porsche just came unstuck there, which is, well, if it's going to happen anywhere, then it's probably going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You touch on the corners. It's very much a case of, like I said earlier, though, carrying that speed and getting those lines right, because we've got some sections that we're coming up to towards the end of the lap, especially where one corner does lead into the next. It's almost like switch back, and you've got to really, maximise that line, maximise that speed through the corner. But Dan Neese up to 8th, he'll be looking to make progress forward. But it's definitely Jeffrey Humes out there up front and extending that gap at the moment. He's definitely the guy with the pace in the prototypes as it stands at the moment. Just looking back now at Wasilewski in 3rd place in the BMW, just looking to gain a position there. I'll move forward a little bit. I think that is that Booth he's racing with, or is that
somebody else?
Somebody else, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
It is Colin Weatherhope, by the looks of things. Not added to our GT Pro timing. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a GT Pro driver. Looking at the way his car is at the moment, in terms of its the way it's set up, he is supposed to be a pro car, but he's not in our timing just yet. So this is the battle for 3rd position. There's a few GTs that haven't been with us before that are not quite added into the right places. Obviously, you can see the ones with the brackets, the EA in with their name. They're supposed to be in the AM category, so you can kind of see that for yourselves at home. There you are. On the left-hand side. But yeah, Weatherhope currently 1st appearance of the season here at round 9, and he's inside the top 10, or inside the top 3 I should say, which is very strong indeed for the first GT3 Pro race. In terms of their championship, by the way, it's really a bit of a battle between Ross Booth and Paul Gibson. Bradley Haley quite a few points adrift at this stage, but may still get involved. We've currently got Ross Booth in 2nd, of course, the championship leader. Bradley Haley from 3rd in the championship is 1st on the road right now. Can't see Paul Gibson anywhere. I just wonder if he's having just a bad day, or indeed not here. Looks like he isn't here. Of course, that's going to be one of his drop rounds. He's already got 1-0 next to his name that's already been dropped, but he's going to have to drop another one here, which is not particularly useful. However, obviously that's what the drop downs are designed to do, I suppose. If you can't attend absolutely every race, then you are still entitled to a championship fight, which we're hoping anyway that Gibson is going to be involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we with such a long season as this one is, it's a heck of a lot of commitment and a lot of time to commit to every single round. And it's good that they have those drop rounds just to allow people to carry on with normal family life and day-to-day stuff. So it's and without being sort of cut out of the championship, as it were, and not being too detrimental. But having said that, some drivers will lose out more than others, depending on their obviously with their results to how many points they're gonna lose. If they don't have a bad round, then potentially they're losing a lot of points.
That is true, because of course good races get dropped in the end. But generally, if you tend to have good races, then you do end up near the top of the championship anyway. As we stay off the road here, Matthew Gutch. Oh well, there was already stuff going on here for one of the Audis. But coming through the S's here and down into turn 9, Gutch was too late on the brakes there for one of the Porsches, and he looks like he's waiting for the Porsche at least, which is a gentlemanly thing to do, of course. However, he would have much rather not made the mistake in the first place, just a misjudgment. We see this so many times.
Yeah, easy to do, and unfortunately, yeah, another one there. That's Bidwell just having a bit of a turnaround there. Not quite sure what went on in the build-up to that, whether he just did that all on his own or whether he was involved with somebody else, but it definitely turned him around the wrong way.
I'll be about to find out here. Jason Iverson could be involved. This is the oh, dearie me. So the McLaren's already on the outside line there, and the O2 LMP2 of Carter Kuninger there got involved, which is not good news for his championship aspirations. Certainly, there's Matthew Gotchi's got back going again, but the sole McLaren in our field was involved in that one, or arguably the cause, although spun around and not really doing anything wrong, let's say. So yeah, we're just hearing, by the way, that Paul Gibson's off on holiday at the moment, so that's why he's not with us. So there we are. It's good to see that he's watching. Yeah, clearly not on holiday too much because he still wants to see what's going on here, which is fair enough, I suppose. But yeah, hopefully we'll see him back in a couple of weeks' time when we begin our final straight, you could say, in terms of this championship. 5 European races to end this one off, and 2 90-minute races as well at Le Mans and Spa, respectively. So they're going to be championship defining. We really are on the home straight at that point. And we're going to know who's going to be involved in these championship fights. We're going to have a really good idea of who we expect to win these races. And it's just a case of letting everything play out from there. It's going to be a good final 5 races or so. Some good circuits selected in there.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to Le Mans. I mean, that's one that I've not really commentated around there very much, or actually raced around there very much myself. So but it's always it's a good one to watch, and yeah, looking forward to that one. That's going to be a different kind of challenge for the drivers as well, with it being such a long lap. But it's going to be good. But yeah, just touching on Kuninger down in 7th place as we're watching Jones at the moment. But Kuninger down in 7th place, he needs to be finishing high to defend that lead from the charging Jeffrey Humes at the moment, doesn't he?
Certainly does. And they're all going to be looking over their shoulder and worrying about him at this stage. Let's not forget Jeffrey Humes' winning streak was just knocked out by the previous race. He did still get pole on the fastest lap, of course. But he didn't manage to take home the race victory. He was 5th by the end, I think, and yeah, dropped some points to Billy Smith, who won the race, and that means Jeffrey Humes is still 51 points adrift. But when the second drop week gets factored in, Billy Smith is going to lose some points, so Humes will still want to chip away. However, this point system, the difference between first and second is only 3 points. And when you're over 50 behind, that is going to be difficult with only 6 races to go, because that's a minimum of only 18 points, and he needs 3 times that to really get involved. So it is still going to be a stretch for Humes, and he does really have to podium in every race at the very least, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% right there. But the problem the other guys have got is if they're tripping over each other and battling with themselves, that's where they're starting to hemorrhage a few points, like Kuninger is this evening. So it's going to be a good one. I mean, Smith's obviously in 2nd place at the moment, so he's doing himself no harm whatsoever there. As Jones is still just looking to try and get interested in that 4th place ahead, as the prototypes are just making their way through now.
Yeah, they are. Going around the outside at the moment on the LMP2s. That's David Schutt. He's actually in a battle with Joshua Wolf, where he was. He's just drifted a second and a half back now also. Coming down towards turn number 1, and here are the final 4 GT Pro cars. The LMP2s really spread themselves out quite early on in this race. We don't often see this until the first run through traffic, but even as they come through traffic here, they are quite spread out. And that's surely alleviated some of the problems that we sometimes see on the first run through traffic. It can get very chaotic because everybody's so bunched up. I know the GTs are very bunched up, and we do only have 41 cars on the grid here today, but the LMP2s being spaced out does certainly help. But this is big damage for Cameron Bidwell, I'm afraid. There's suspension damage written all over that one, and he's going to pull to the side of the road.
Yeah, almost looked like it was drifting at one point, but then yeah, you realise obviously as it carries on, that's definitely damage to that car. So obviously he's taken a big hit somewhere, as we can see him just crabbing down the straight there. That's obviously a nightmare trying to limp back to the pits, but I'm guessing that's going to be a big repair once he gets back to pit lane. Yeah,
that just looks all kinds of wrong. This is where he picked it up. I got clipped in exactly the wrong place by that Lamborghini. Didn't really do a lot wrong there, neither did the Lamborghini. But he's got big damage. That can sometimes happen if you clip these cars in the wrong angle, at the particularly at the wheels. The suspension arms and stuff can get broken very easily, and that is what, 80 degrees to the right hand side to go in a straight line. Really, oh dear, yeah. He's had trouble getting that one back. Stan Nisu was involved, let's not forget. Going off the road. Just in front of Matthew Gotch, that is. Going through turn 3. Able to get back going again, though. Fortunately, as we go a little bit further back in the pack to Patrick McDaniel, trying to get through, or trying to hold on from Vance Barrett, excuse me, coming into the final few corners. Yeah, it is certainly noticeable how the fewer cars on the grid here this week. Only 41, which is at least 10 lower than what we've seen for week after week in this series.
Yeah, he's just created that bit more space for them to race, but we are still seeing obviously those occasions where they're bunched up and prototypes are coming across groups of 4 and 5 cars that they're having to work their way through, and they're all battling as well, and it just makes it that little bit tighter. As we're seeing here, they're just coming up to 2 prototypes coming up to 2 GT cars. A little bit further down the road, once they've cleared these, another group, another 3 or 4, to get through. So it's still difficult, still takes a lot of concentration, some great racecraft and some sketchy moves sometimes, and a little bit of luck just to get through unharmed. And we just saw it, when we saw that damage to the prototype, it just doesn't take much of a knock to cause a lot of damage just in the wrong place.
Yeah, if you get it in the wrong place, then you are in a big bit of trouble, as we've just seen for Cameron Bidwell coming through on the outside line now. McDaniel into turn 9 this is. And then they'll be heading up towards the hairpin at 10. This is Nico Kopkar at the moment, trying to get into what is the top 5 ahead of Albert Jones on the defensive at the moment. In the middle of the road for that Audi. Is he going to pull to the outside line? Looks like it. Maybe swing around here and get the run onto the back straight, we could call it, into the 90-degree right-hander at turn 11, but nothing doing there. And it is quite a difficult braking zone, really, deceptively, because it doesn't look like it's it looks like it's quite gradual downhill, but it is quite steep. And not smooth by any stretch either. There's a couple of bumps here and there you do have to watch, and the apex kind of falls away from you there, so it's quite a difficult place to go through on your own, even though it's on paper just a simple 90-degree corner. Can get unstuck there quite easily, as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about rhythm, isn't it? And the problem with the multi-class racing is your rhythm is quite often broken. When you do come across some of the slower cars, or even when you're just in a battle like this, you can get unsighted very, very easily, and you lose your train of thought, your concentration, or just your line of sight for a split second, and things can change very, very quickly, as we've just seen the prototype weave its way through there, very nicely done. And actually, as I say that, it runs a little bit wide, and he's going to have to do it all over again.
Yeah, that was David A. Williams, I'm afraid, who just went off the road there. Now 4th in this championship, 46 points adrift, and only just in front of Jeffrey Ooms. Looking at the results right now, if it were to end right now, Robert Tinsey is doing just enough to hold on to his 3rd in the championship, but by only just. That was Matthew Gotch getting pushed a little bit out wide in the battle for what is 16th in the GT overall race. Mark Santana is in our only McLaren, and we love him for that, for using the McLaren, because it's not used very often, and who doesn't love seeing the flames come out the back of that car? But he does look like he's got a bit of a handful at the moment, and we saw it obviously getting involved with the incident down at this corner a little bit earlier on. This is what happened to Williams, just steaming in way too hot, really.
Yep, just trying to carry a bit too much speed, wasn't he? Getting past the GT cars, went a little bit deep into the corner and ran a bit wide. Managed to save it and not turn it around the wrong way, but he'll be annoyed with himself for that. That was a little mistake, obviously very, very avoidable, that, and he had the job done. So just again, just that concentration level, just pushing that bit too hard, but all good at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. This is how we stand in GT AM, by the way. Excuse me. Ryan Robertson and Kevin O'Keefe are really in a tooth and nail fight. Only 1 point between them at the moment. Trent Brown is beginning to go a little bit adrift from those guys. In terms of this race, I can't see Kevin O'Keefe in the starting list, so I don't believe he's here today. And Ryan Robertson is going to take advantage of that, of course. Here's the pro standings I was talking about a little bit earlier on. Ross Booth's starting to really step away from Paul Gibson at this stage, with Bradley Haley there as well. Although Haley looks like he might take some points off Booth here today as well. And of course, we've got the LMP2 standings as well. We're talking about Jeffrey Ooms coming up on the leaders. Currently, it's Billy Smith and Carter Kuninger fighting it out, but you never know with Ooms there in 5th position. He could very much make a name for himself here and get himself in amongst the points, in amongst the leading positions. But of course we've got to wait for the rest of this race to pan out first. 23 minutes of the hour now gone. Here's the GT Pro leading battle, and it looks very, very exciting indeed. 4 cars all within a second of each other at this early stage, admittedly, but stayed together very nicely this race.
Yeah, looking to hang on to the back of each other. Oh, wow.
And that's Franco Margarella touching a barrier that he's probably never touched before, because this is a weird accident, I'm afraid to say. And off the road for the Audi, it looked like there was a bit of something going on beforehand, before we caught the camera shots. And speaking of suspension damage a little bit earlier on, that looks like more than suspension. There's certainly a few things wrong with that car. Ferrari somehow managing to get itself spun around on the exit of that corner, and Margarella just once again getting clipped in the wrong way and went for a big incident, I'm afraid, in that one. Thankfully, nobody else was really involved, because there were a lot of cars in that small space.
Yeah, for sure. Very lucky no more were involved, like you say, but certainly that ended his race, and certainly back to the pits lane. That was a tow, so he'll be sat there for a while waiting for repairs, if at all he does rejoin. So let's look at Gosh now in 7th place in the AM class, and he's looking to try and defend from Santana at the moment, who's really putting him under pressure.
Yeah, Johan Shirazi is the one just in front of these guys in the 66 Porsche. I believe that's a pro car, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he is, as he goes down to the inside right now. This is for an overall position, of course, and points will factor in here, both for both cars. The GTs are scored points in one big category, despite the fact they are split into 2 for the AM and Pro Championships. For example, a little bit difficult to explain, but once you've got your head around it, it's quite simple. But yeah, there are a lot of points on offer in GT. That's why you see them getting so many, especially in Pro compared to those in Prototype. We're still only just over the hundreds at the moment in Prototype, despite the fact it's 25 for a win, and you could have 200 by this point. But there we are. It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy championship in Prototype, very unpredictable, but makes it very watchable indeed as we go up to the GT Pro battles. Rosleski has kind of been here for a while, but he's not really made any concerted effort to actually go through. I just wonder if he's happy to be here at the moment, just sitting behind, and whether he's thinking of bigger things by sitting in here, fighting tooth and nail for 3rd right now. He's not going to be the most useful thing in the world. I think he realises that in this fight with Colin Weatherhope for 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would like to see Weatherholt behind him, or if not, that gap between Weatherholt and Booth a little bit less than it is at the moment, just to keep in touch with the leaders, because Wasilewski, while he's potentially got that pace to go faster than Weatherholt if he can find a way past, he'll want to stay with Haley and Booth if he can, but at the moment, like I say, he does seem to be happy just to sit there. He's tucked in very tight, and having not really battling too hard. He's not making any moves, he's not showing his nose, but up ahead Haley and Booth are they're equally as close together, and I'm thinking that just saw a couple of corners ago, I saw out of the corner of my eye, Booth was showing his nose to Haley and was potentially looking to make a pass, so be interesting to see what happens there. But this is definitely both split into 2 car battles now, but they're only a second and a half apart between the 2 packs, so be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. Booth looks like he's getting stronger as this race goes on. Haley looking to try and hold on for the win here. Still got a long time to go to be holding on from here. Haley's last win, of course, coming a few rounds ago at Road America in the last 90-minute race that we had in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Next run coming up in 4 weeks' time at Le Mans. We've got the Hungaroring in between then. A relatively new circuit to iRacing, but we'll see how it goes. We've been speaking to these guys actually after the races about the circuits coming up, and a few of them saying that because obviously it's a nice thing for us to talk about the fact that the first half of this season is American, and is this going to change the championship? But it seemed like it will affect some of these drivers, obviously mainly based in America or Canada, North America we'll say, for the most part, these drivers. And the circuits obviously in Europe and the Far East a bit less familiar to some of these guys by the looks of things. We haven't seen drastic changes at the front of the order, but it's certainly going to make their preparations a little bit more difficult away from the cameras.
Yeah, definitely. I do think some of the tracks that they do take a bit of a different driving style, and Hungaroring at the next round is going to be very different to some of the previous tracks they've raced on. It is a great track. It does invite good racing, but it's going to be. I think it's going to prove difficult for the multi-class style of racing. I think there'll be some difficulty in getting past. It's very much sections of that track are just one line through them, and it's not a lot of variation. So overtakes are going to be tight.
Well, early pit stops. Already Joshua Wolf looking to just change things up a little bit by going before the half hour. Christopher Pace certainly is. Kevin Santana did the same as well. A few early pit stops coming here. I don't think it's because they're struggling for fuel and they're not going to make it to the end here. That's not going to be an issue here, I would have thought. But people are looking to try something different on strategy. I'm surprised it's taken us till round 9 to see this, to be honest, because we've seen week after week people going as long as they can, running the tanks dry in the first stint, getting enough fuel to go to the end, and then that's simple, easy as you like. Nobody's really gone before the half hour until this stage, and all of a sudden we've got loads of guys in before the half hour, which is interesting to see. Something a little bit different, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to see a little bit of a strategy change, and also, if you're that guy doing that strategy change, the guys left on the track are then left wondering, it puts that element of doubt in their mind. Maybe you've got to be pretty strong-willed to ignore completely what the other drivers around you are doing and not let it phase you in any way, shape or form. So it'll be interesting to see how many drivers respond, and yeah, good to see the strategy change. Totally agree, and be interesting to see how that plays out, and to see anybody actually making the jump in the pit stops. And we have seen that recently. We know some of the guys do get in and out of pit lane a little bit quicker, and some of the guys have been saving a little bit of fuel, had to stop for less fuel, and we've seen a few position changes throughout the season when it comes to pit stops.
We have a little bit wide there from Shirazi going through the final couple of corners. This is battle for the overall position, by the way. We've got once again, rather than one in the class, but as I mentioned earlier, it still matters in terms of the points. And this will matter as well. Sheldon Rosenbaum trying to get through at the moment. He's trying to get away from Dale Green too for what is 12th place in GT Am. They're currently running down towards the right-handed 90-degree corner down here. Downhill, of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. BMW just sandwiched by those two Porsches coming towards the end of another lap here. Just over halfway through this one now. Using all the track on the right-hand side there as well. Not going into the pit lane on this occasion.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on the prototypes as well. I tell you what, Jeffrey Humes, that gap's coming down. He'd got it out to about 3.5 seconds, and it seemed to have stabilised. It's now down to around about 2 seconds, and Billy Smith is matching his lap times. He's pretty much he's doing what he needs to do, and he's staying in touch with Jeffrey Humes. We're used to seeing Jeffrey having some relatively big margins and being able to have a little bit of a comfort zone, but not tonight. That gap is definitely tight. So whether Jeffrey's just running into some traffic at the moment, and that's why the gap is now under 2 seconds, and Billy Smith's it may level itself out, but at the moment, yeah, Jeffrey Humes, you can see there, he's got a couple of GT cars that to work his way around, but not too many to be fair. But you can see that Smith is not far behind at all. A couple of cars between them now, but quite often Jeffrey Humes has been out of sight this season.
He certainly has. Back when he joined us, was it Road America when he joined us, I think? Whichever one it was, he absolutely flew away. And he hasn't really stopped doing that since. Although the win at, the race at Suzuka was obviously a lot less convincing for him. Didn't end up winning at all. It was only 5th after a couple of problems. And now this race is indeed not quite as convincing as it has been in previous for Jeffrey Humes.
I mean, they are. If you look at the gap for Smith back to Tinsey, that's a good 7-8 seconds. So I mean, they are pulling away, these two. So it could well be that Ooms is maybe not having maybe not got the pace that he's had at other tracks, but it could also be the fact that Smith is now the championship contender, and he, he's having a bit of a reinvigoration, and he's got that impetus. He's got the speed. He's maybe putting a few extra laps in practice because he realises that the championship could be his if he can get some good results, which he's second place at the moment. That'll do him, as you said earlier on the points. Jeffrey Humes has got it all to do points wise, and it's going to be difficult for him if the likes of Smith keep finishing on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we maybe do need to give a bit of credit to Billy Smith in the way he's driving today, because you're right, that gap behind is quite big. Robertson's is 9 seconds adrift. David Schutt a further 9 seconds. So, you know, Humes has got a 20-second lead over those outside of the podium right now, which is pretty impressive. This is the battle a little bit further down. It really is noticeable, though, how the fewer cars on the grid here today, and with some of those out of the race. Cameron Bidwell, by the way, after a 9.5-minute pit stop's back going again. Franco Margarella just goes over the 10-minute mark and is still getting his car repaired. But yeah, 3 cars out of the race already. 38 still, well, 37 running at the moment. 38 still in the race, and it is noticeable. I don't really know the reason why, because we've seen over 50 cars for week after week now in this championship, but we have brought the numbers down just a little bit as we move away from the American circuits, which may be affecting things, and it is certainly making things a bit easier in traffic. We've seen maybe one incident with 2 different classes of car involved, and that was because of an incident for one, and the prototypes getting caught up in a GT car's spin, for example. So you know, it's been a lot cleaner in terms of getting through on lap traffic on this occasion, at least in the bits we've seen, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And what it does when there's a few less cars on the track as well, you know, we talk about these long pit stops for repairs and things like that. It makes it all the more worthwhile to get your car repaired, get back out on track, because there is a very good chance that you're going to score some points, and you know, maybe that will make a difference come the end of the season.
Certainly could. This is the battle for the final final top 10 position. Sherburn versus Durnenberg right now, with just over 25 minutes to go. And speaking of changes, we've seen one fairly major one at the front of GT here, as Weatherhope gets displaced by Wozleski. We didn't see what happened there, but we can only presume it was a fairly easy pass, because Wozleski's been able to leave the Lamborghini behind and get up to the front too. Here's Joshua Wolf, though, getting a little bit wide into the gravel. And yeah, clipping the grass into that tricky braking zone is not going to help you either. This is not going to help either. It's one of those circuits where there's not much runoff, to be quite honest. And the grass can be easily clipped, as we're seeing in a few of these clips here.
Yeah, certainly a few drivers having a few issues, as you pointed out earlier, just you know, the twisty nature of this track, and that's maybe just a little bit of trail braking, asking too much of the back end there, and it just stepped out. And what's going to happen here with Kadowski, it's not quite sure, just an off track really. Ran very wide, seemed to keep it together, and managed to get back going again, but not too bad at all. We're looking at Wozleski's got past Weatherhope, and he's up into that 3rd place, so he's made the move, and what's more is he's closing in on Booth.
He is at this stage. It's going to be 3 for the lead. Look like they're leaving this man behind a little bit in that Lamborghini. It's Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, Lamborghini, Audi at the moment at the front of GT3. 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. Astonishing, really. Especially considering it's such a circuit that's not really got much variation at all. It's all slow speed stuff. Not too many long straights. No high-speed corners, but all of the cars still very well matched, despite the fact that their strengths and weaknesses are less, or are harder, to balance over a lap.
Yeah, for sure.
11. Go on.
For sure, with all the different engine configurations, all the cars are very, very different to drive, and you know, it like you say, it's very interesting to see that they've got 5 different cars there, as we've just seen Booth enter pit lane.
Yeah, championship leaders in from 2nd place in this race. Now the money laps are really coming up for these guys up front. Bradley Haley's going to want to push as hard as possible, and when he comes out the pit lane, Ross Booth is going to want to do the same. All of the pit stops in LMP2 are happening right now here as well, by the way. 2.5 second lead has been restored to Jeffrey Humes right now, and we might have a little bit of a run through a little bit later on that one, but it's all happening here in GT3 as they get past the McLaren of Moxantano. Goes off by the looks of things in the McLaren, really struggling, unfortunately, in that car. But yeah, the money lap's coming up for Haley, Wozleski and Weatherhope. They must be coming in here to cover off Booth, surely, at the end of this lap.
Yeah, you would think so, but we have seen Haley go long before, and go longer and not really react to the cars around him. But it'll be interesting to see if he does this time, being as it was very, very close on track for him. But yeah, good super close battle there up at the front of the GT Pros, and it's really, it's always exciting to watch that one. Very, very close every round.
Certainly is. Going down the hill again. Sheldon Rosenbaum getting overtaken by one of the pro cars there by the looks of things. Well, yeah, it must be a pro car, since there's only two GT3 categories, of course, and he is in the AMS at the moment, currently being led by Ryan Robertson. Who else? Robert Cast is just behind, with Trent Brown in third, as he has been for a lot of the season. As this is quite a battle. Jogging Rosenbaum all the way to the pit wall. Goodness me, these two are fighting hard. Coming down into turn one, which is just one long right-hander, double apex, and well, some would call this two corners, but Rosenbaum trying to go around the outside. Can't do it there. That was quite aggressive, going down the main straight there. It doesn't look like it's quite done yet either into turn two here. Although Rosenbaum chooses to stick behind. Very aggressive between the two. It's kind of surprising to see that level of aggression, really, but there we are. The Porsche choosing to defend very, very heavily there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was almost like, is he going to put him in the pit wall? There was an element of doubt as we, at the camera angle, we couldn't quite see if the BMW did have his nose alongside at all. But yeah, the Porsche moved across, made 2 or 3 attempts to move further and further across, and not, like you say, almost parked it in the pit wall and really aggressively defended. And he's not really pulling away. It's looking like this is a bit of a battle between the two of them. And yeah, that Porsche definitely doesn't want to let the BMW back through. He's going to hang on to that position for all costs by the looks of it.
It's Mark Kudrowski, by the way, who is currently in front of him. He was the man who went off at the S's in the very first few laps, if you remember, back to the opening part of this race, now 40 minutes in the past. And hopefully that mistake has been pushed to the back of his mind. You'd imagine it has been. These two fighting relatively hard. I think this is Kudrowski's first appearance this season. I don't remember him in any of the others, but he may well have been here. I know he has been here a couple of times already in this season. Coming through the final corner now, and onto the front straight again, where it all kicked off last lap around. Looking at where the GT Pro guys are, Wojciechowski has managed to get out in front of Booth. Weatherhope wasn't able to jump Booth, but that was a very, very nice couple of laps there from Ryan Wojciechowski, or one lap as it was, from Ryan Wojciechowski, because he managed to get himself ahead of Ross Booth, and now Bradley Haley's in. Wojciechowski could very well be taking the lead of this race, which will be a bit of a turn-up.
Yeah, definitely putting yourself under pressure at your first time out, taking the lead, but it'd be interesting to see what happens there and see whether he does or not with all three, the top 3 as it stands, all in the pits. So it'd be interesting to see how where Booth is when Haley comes out on track as well. That's going to be the one to watch, isn't it? As Haley's at pit exit now.
The Mercedes trundles down pit lane. Is it going to be ahead or behind Wojciechowski? He's going to be behind. And Booth is going to get through here as well, is he? No, not quite. There they are, down the front straight. Wojciechowski coming in with a full head of steam and, of course, warmed up tyres, nicely warmed up. But Haley holds on to the lead. He was just strong enough in that final in-lap for him to hold on to this lead. And it looks like it's going to be the 3 of them fighting it out for the final 18 minutes or so. Wojciechowski, though, has been doing the overtaking in this race. He's been the aggressor so far, and it looks like that's going to continue on. Haley it just leads into turn 4 at the moment, but how long is he going to be able to hold on to this lead? He's going to be under an incredible amount of pressure for the final moments of this race.
Yeah, all 3 of them pit times very, very close. Ross Booth was the one that lost out fractionally to in Haley's pit time. Wojciechowski was the fastest, but only by half a second, if that. So no real massive gains made in the pits, but it's just enough for Wojciechowski to get past Booth. But this is a very, very tight battle now, and Haley's going to come under all sorts of pressure now with sort of 18 minutes of the race left. He's going to have to defend, but we know Haley can do that. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him, he's quite often at the sharp end of this class, but it's looking like Wojciechowski's got a run on him now, and he's in the slipstream, and Haley's having to go very, very defensive, and Booth is in the pound seat for picking anything up now.
Straight down the inside, there was a gap open, and he's taken it in the BMW there on the inside line at turn 11, and he's going to go through by the looks of things. The next two turns go to the left, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter. Haley fights back though on the inside line, very tight into the chicane. Here comes Boove, look at this. The championship leader could take it all here. On the inside line, they go 3 wide down the front straight. A prototype looking to make it 4 quite possibly. Wieslewski on the inside line, and they've got no idea where to go. Around the outside for Ross Boove, he can't quite make that work. Haley comes back down the inside of him into 2, and now they're going to go side by side again with some prototypes involved, trying to split the difference between them. Going into turn 2 now, inside line for Ross Boove, and surely he's going to hold on to the place. He does indeed, but goodness me, that was a very exciting battle. Ross Boove very nearly picked up everything there into turn 1.
Yeah, as I said, just as they started that, Ross Boove was in the prime position to capitalise on any sort of contact or running wide there, and he really did. He, almost got that chance to take the lead. But it's Haley that's the big loser there. He's dropped down to 3rd place now, but he's still in touch. He'll hang on, but you can't help but feel that Wieslewski and Booth maybe just have a couple of tenths in the tank to maybe pull away from Haley, because Haley, when he was out in front, he wasn't able to break the toe from these two. He definitely was holding Booth up, and Wieslewski definitely had the pace to catch, because he closed the gap down, let's not forget.
That is very true, but now that Haley's got the slipstream himself, will he now be able to hold on in this group? Well, he's lost a couple of car lengths already, and the battling has all allowed Colin Weatherhope to get himself involved, or at least give himself a watching brief of what's happening just up in front here. Down into turn 11 once more, where all the action kicked off last time around. I thought it was done at this point, but Haley held on and fought back through the next 2 corners. 12 and 13 both to the right here, but to the left, of course. Then you get this quite tight chicane. They're both diving it very deep into that final corner. This is where Ross Boove very nearly stole everything. 3 wide, and there was good presence of mind, to be fair, from the prototypes just behind there, because they very could have easily made it 4 wide down into turn number 1. Thankfully, we didn't do that, because that could have ended in a big disaster for everybody.
Yeah, for definite. I mean, those that was an interesting situation for the prototypes to deal with behind, because there was 3 prototypes closing up very fast, who weren't in a battling position at the time, but once they were confronted with 3 GT Pro cars across the track, then they had nowhere to go. They got all closed up as well, and it was a difficult situation for all involved on that one. But thankfully, everybody managed to get through, and they all carried on the way. But yeah, really good racing from these guys, and like I keep saying, every round, you can rely on the GT class, certainly Pro and AMs, to put on some very good racing, and these boys, the pros, it is the same names pretty much week in week out at the front end, giving us a fantastic show.
It certainly is. Going through turn 9 now into 10. Bit of miscommunication there between a couple of the prototypes, or one of the prototypes and one of the GTs. I think that's Dominic Durnenberg in the 913 there. Going out down the back straight and onto the down towards turn 11 again. These two aren't too far away either. Albert Jones and Nico Kupko have been in tow. They've been in tow over the last few laps. They're kind of getting involved. 3.5 seconds adrift. If the front 4 begin to battle once more, then they could very much get themselves involved, and when we'd have a 6-car train for the lead in GT Pro, that would be quite mad. So we'll see if that does transpire, but it does look unlikely at this stage without major battling just up in front, although we're just over 13 minutes to go. It is very possible. Coming down towards turn number 1 once more in this Audi, the best performing of the Audis throughout the day so far. As I mentioned, we've still got 5 different manufacturers in the top 5, which is a great record to have.
Yeah, definitely.
And 3.
Just looking again, Ooms is stretching that lead out in the prototypes to just over 3 seconds. His last lap was slower than Billy Smith's, but again, it's just going through the traffic, I think. But those two are definitely out in a class of their own tonight with the prototypes, as Tinsley's in 3rd place, in a clear 3rd place. But he's going to have a pretty lonely race there at the moment. But Ooms, I think Smith has done a good job tonight in that prototype class. I think he's keeping Jeffrey Ooms reasonably honest, and obviously making sure that he's in touching distance if Ooms makes a mistake. And when I say mistake, it only takes a run wide for him to lose that 2 or 3 second gap.
Yeah, then we will have a fight for the race lead on. So, yeah, there's he's just got to stay attentive there and stay where he is. Although, as you said earlier, a second place for Billy Smith is not a bad result at all. He'll absolutely take that, because a 51-point margin is not going to come down very quickly when the gap between first and second is only 3 points. So it's very difficult for Ooms to do anything here without intervention from obviously Billy Smith going off. And of course, Smith taking a big stride forward in terms of Kuninger as well, losing points here. He's 7th at the moment, his car to Kuninger. Going to be losing another 10 points in this championship fight. So leaving Motegi today, it looks like Billy Smith could leave with a 21-point advantage over the rest, which is not insignificant.
Yeah, that GT Pro battle is really hotting up as well. We have got 4 cars really all close together now, as you can see. Wasilewski just trying to pull away a little bit. He's got the biggest gap back to Booth, but Haley's hanging on to Booth, and Weatherhope, he's hanging on as well now that he's managed to get back in touch. The gap's around about half a second-ish, but yeah, definitely all close enough to capitalise on any mistakes. And maybe when we're coming down to the last sort of 11 minutes now, it is absolute push time now. If you've got anything left in the tank, if you want to maybe just push that bit harder to see if you can close that gap, put yourself in a position to make a challenge, now is the time to do it, because they're running out of time. Like I say, 11 minutes left to go. Need to really push, but just half a second. They are close enough to do that. They are close enough to keep each other under pressure.
Yes, they are indeed. Going down towards turn 9 now. Bit of a dive from Billy Smith there, but he's just making his way through a bit of traffic, and the GT's trying to make that as easy as possible for these prototypes, of course, but there's only so much they can do. Wasilewski at the moment with a little bit of an advantage over the rest. You can see this group starting to split up here, and when a train that was formerly very tightly packed together, suddenly it gets expanded, you know that pace at the front is very, very quick indeed. Wasilewski setting some of the best laps of his race so far to do this right now. Not very easy to get guys like Bradley Haley out the back of this train, as he's doing right now. And even Ross Booth is struggling to keep up. This is one of the best performances we've seen from Wasilewski all season long, and it could indeed reward him with a race victory. He's not managed it this season. 3 second places. Is this going to be his day? It certainly looks like it with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, he's put on a good performance, because let's not forget he was down in 4th place towards the start of this race, and he had to, he's had to battle his way through, to get up there, and to he's had the pace out right though. I mean, his fastest lap was his best lap so far is a 1:48.79 compared to Booth behind with a 1:49.2. So he's got sort of 4/10 in hand on best laps, and consistently now. I mean, his last lap he was sort of 3.5 tenths faster than Booth. So he's definitely got this pace, and he's comfortable. I know that gap doesn't show that he's maybe massively comfortable, but he is comfortable.
Oops, off the road somewhere clearly, because he's lost the lead very quickly there. 1.8 seconds between them, and I think there's been a mistake from the race leader to allow Billy Smith through. Late drama by the looks of things here at Motegi as Billy Smith takes the lead. We'll see what happens to Jeffrey Ooms. Here it is. He was on the back of the prototype in front, and surely something's happened precursing this, because Ooms is all of a sudden struggling massively. Now, does it involve these two? Well, this is Kuninger going off on his own, but he's back on the road. All fine. How has Ooms lost so much pace in such short order, is the question. Robert Cast, oh dear, that was close to going quite wrong for him as well. But he carries on in second place in GT Am.
Yeah, Ooms is in pit lane as well.
Yeah, he's got damage somewhere, but we didn't see where he picks it up. We haven't seen where he's picked it up. And all of a sudden, this looks like an absolute dream situation here for Billy Smith. That's Kozrowski off the road. Now,
yeah, I mean, we never want to see it, but we did say, didn't we? You know, Billy Smith doing the right thing, keeping him honest, and just riding his race. We see a replay. This is just him, Ooms going off wide, isn't it? And
this is afterwards, surely.
Yeah. And
there's damage there. You can see the suspension damage. If we get onto the straight here, as the wheel's supposed to straighten out, that's not straight.
Yeah, he's having to turn into he's having to counter steer the car down the straight, which is never good. But whatever caused that damage, whatever's befouled him, he's lost positions now. He's still in pit lane and dropping down the order, down currently in 8th place as it stands at the moment, but still in the pit box. So Billy Smith, all his Christmases have come at once now. Tonight he's driven a fantastic race, and it's looking like he's going to take the win. He's got 7 minutes left to circulate to get that top step of the podium.
He has, and not too much pressure either. Nearly 20 seconds back to Robert Tinsey at the moment as they're ducking and diving through here. David Schutt and Dan Neese. It's been a good performance from Dan Neese in the end. He's climbed a good 4 or 5 places throughout this race when he hit the lowest point he did it during the race. But this is all closed up. That battle just behind, you can see. I think it's between... I thought it was Trent Brown and Robert Cast actually, but it's not, is it? And that's not Wozleski's car either. That's the teammates of both of those cars that's tricking us at the moment. But yeah, those gaps are indeed quite close at the front of GT Pro especially, and for second in GT Am as well. A couple of battles going on, and this one of course in LMP2 as well. Joshua Wolf looks like he's going to possibly get a podium here. That alternate strategy, we mentioned him, he was the first man of the LMP2s to come in here, and it looks like it might pay off. His first podium of the season might be coming his way in a few moments' time.
Yeah, the big loser for me in the prototypes tonight is Kuninger. Obviously, Jeffrey Humes he's lost out due to whatever's caused that damage. But Carter Kuninger, he's lost a chance to capitalise on some points and maybe stay in touch with Smith at the sharp end of the championship, because he's all the way down in 6th place, which it's not a terrible finish. But we're used to seeing Kuninger up towards the podium. I mean, he's been on the podium this season more often than, well, actually he's not been on the. Was he 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 podium finishes? So he's been on the podium more than he's not been on the podium this season.
He certainly has. As we go through the faster section once more with these guys, this is going to be where you lose a lot of time as an LMP2 because of the downforce conundrum we were explaining a little bit earlier on. A little bit further up, this is the battle up front, and Rosberg looks like he's made a mistake in the last few moments. There's been traffic intervention, of course. Not suggesting anything untoward has gone on here, but just naturally through the traffic. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. It looks like Rosberg has certainly lost a bit of time over the last couple of moments. He's going to again possibly into turn 11. That LMP2 going to go diving down his inside, and that's going to lose him even more time, more than 1 second for Ryan Wozleski, which is not comfortable, but it's certainly a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's enough breathing room. When you know you've got the pace, you don't have to push that 10 tenths to maintain that gap. It's a 1.3 second lead is a healthy lead, and it's enough. I think we're looking back for that final step of the podium really here. This is where the battle is at the moment. But again, Haley, he's got half a second in hand. I think he's got it, to be honest, because again, I think he generally has got the pace on that Lamborghini behind of Weatherhope. I think Weatherhope's done a cracking job. He's keeping him honest, but I don't think he has the outright pace to get that position unless Haley makes a mistake.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to see that really. Well, very late on the brakes from the Lamborghini there. Goodness me, Weatherhope getting very deep under brakes there.
Yeah, he's just going to prove me wrong, isn't he? He's going to push it hard, and he's going to get that position. And let's have some good racing. I'm all for it, but I just think Haley's he's a seasoned campaigner. He knows how to soak up that pressure. He knows what to do. He will have noticed the clock coming down. He'll know he's got 3.5 minutes left to go, and he's in a strong position for that podium finish.
Absolutely. Doesn't often podium when he's not winning, to be fair, Haley. A couple of wins and 1 second place. This is going to be his first third if he can manage it here today. This is Mo Islam, by the way. I think that's Brian Robertson just up in front, the leader of GT Am, and it is indeed. This would take a point off at Robertson if indeed Mo Islam was able to get through. Take 2 points off him actually, which Kevin O'Keefe will obviously be cheering for if he's watching somewhere. He may well be, but he's not going to be scoring any points here today. A DNS next to his name. And yeah, Ryan Robertson, even though we've seen him make a few mistakes in this championship, Robertson, but time and again, he does seem to rise to the front with that little bit of quality, that little bit of pace, and he's looking very good to take this AM Championship if he can hold out for these final 5 rounds, really.
Oh, what's Kuninger been doing? Just a little bit wide there, a little bit greedy with the track limits, and just ran off a little bit. Managed to keep it under control. And what's the Porsche doing here? He's running very, very wide. Oh, did really well to hold on to that. Almost set off sideways into the wall. That could have turned into a very big accident very quickly.
Ross Booth as well has run a bit wide. That's not going to be helping his charge to try and win this one. Cameron Bidwell, I mentioned earlier on that he did take a 9.5 minute repair and get back into the race. And I wasn't joking. Here he is, but he's gone for a spin at turn 4, unfortunately, in front of somebody else. Good avoidance there. I think that's Dan Dietz, who just went through. It's down to turn number 1. They come again. Just under 2 minutes to go. And it looks like all of the class leaders in all of the classes are quite settled at this point. We've got 1 minute 38 lap time. Billy Smith crossed the line with 140 to go. So it's going to be very close here. And it doesn't matter too much actually in iRacing. You've got to see the white flag, haven't you? So we may not know whether the checker flag's coming out until literally metres before the finish line, because iRacing is very helpful like that. So thanks for that. But Billy Smith very much on the final couple of laps, and they're going to be laps of honour for him at this distance.
Yeah, very much so. But you know that podium's not all sorted in the AM class by the looks of it. It's fairly tight as well, and Ross Booth he's coming under pressure from Haley in the pro class as well, with that little bit of the mistakes he's made. Although again he's just extending the lead out now, and I think the podium in the pro class is pretty much sorted as it is, and it definitely is in the prototype. So it'll be interesting to see that AM class, to see if Cast can do anything at all to keep that 3rd place, or to move forward, or just see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. Either way, Billy Swift's coming down towards the final 4 corners of this lap. Is it going to be the final 4 corners of the race? That is the question. Going to go under the bridge possibly one last time. 15 seconds on the clock here. Might just have enough in the bag to be able to go on to another lap here. Doesn't look like the checkered flag is being read, although maybe it is, as he comes towards the line right now. He's going over the line, and it looks like it is indeed a race victory for Billy Smith. Just times it absolutely to perfection there to take this one here at Motegi. He had such a big margin at the end that he had all the time in the world to play with ahead of this man. Robert Tinsey over 20 seconds behind. Joshua Wolf is going to take his first podium of the season as well, at about 14 seconds adrift here as well. Time to absolute perfection by Billy Smith, and not in a hurry at all through these final few laps. Jeffrey Hume's late problems, of course, were played into his hands, but Billy Smith had to be there, and he was, to pick up the pieces from that mistake and take the victory. Ryan Rosleski has driven absolutely wonderfully in this race as well. Here, he's gone through the field in GT Pro, and really taken this race by the scruff of the neck, and taken this win with both hands. He's going to be ahead of Ross Booth and Bradley Haley, who are scrapping for points in the championship, really. Rosleski taking a fantastic win, though, in the BMW. And BMW going to double up in the GT category, because Ryan Robertson in the GT AM class is going to take victory there as well. Once again, 3 very deserving class winners. And Billy Smith, arguably the coolest and most calm and collected of them all.
Yeah, that was a really tight battle for Haley there towards the end. He was closing right in on Booth in the slipstream, but Booth managing to hang on for that 2nd place in the pro class. And we see Robertson there taking the win in the AMs, with Brown and Cast taking that 3rd place. So it's all settled now in the podiums there. And like you say, good result from Smith. Great drive from him this evening. I do think genuinely that he's upped his game for this round. I think he either likes his track or he's put some more practice in, because that's a definitely great drive from him to put Ooms under the pressure that's potentially caused a mistake.
Billy Smith, by the way, that win now becomes tied 2nd most, I don't want to use the word winningest, but that's probably the word I'm looking for here. He's won the 2nd most amount of races in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Of course, a champion back in season 9 it was. and looking to do it again here. That's his 29th victory in this championship. Ryan Motegi with his 10th victory there, which is not a bad tally either, and Robertson with his 5th, so all guys who have won before on quite a lot of occasions as well, funnily enough, but there we are. That was your 60 minutes here at Twin Ring Motegi. We might be just taking a quick look at some of the standings after that race in a few moments' time, as well as some interviews as well from some of these drivers, namely the class winners from this one, Billy Smith, Ryan Motegi and Ryan Robertson, of course. Here are your results though. It was quite tight in the end. Trent Brown only 5 seconds adrift from Robertson, with Robert Cast just about got fought off for that second place. Ian Lake and Jordan Bazugli were battling right till the end as well for 4th. Kevin Santana was just outside the top 5 ahead of Shane Hunter and Matthew Gutch in 8th. Sheldon Rosenbaum was 9th ahead of Dale Green, rounding out your top 10. In GT Pro, it was a great fight between the front 4. Wozleski beating out Booth, who just about held on from Haley. We saw those two fighting right till the end. Colin Weatherhope just had a poor final couple of laps, so finished 4th, but not bad at all on a first result of the season. Dingle Copcar was 5th ahead of Albert Jones, those two were glued together as well. Mo Islam was 7th ahead of Christopher Payes. Jordan Sirizi was 9th ahead of Mark Kudrowski, the final man to finish, and Jason De Vries not really doing very many laps at all. Finally, in the prototype category, it was Billy Smith winning ahead of Robert Tinsey. A big margin in the end. Joshua Wolf with his first podium of the season in 3rd. David Schutt was 4th ahead of Dan Neese. Carter Kuninger 6th ahead of Vance Bow. Then David A. Williams, Patrick McDaniel and Dominic Durnenberg rounding out those who finished on the lead lap and those who finished inside the top 10. Well, there are your results for Twin Ring Motegi. The darkness descending on us here this evening, and a bit of a quieter grid, and I think that was a relief to quite a lot of these guys as they ran around the 1 hour race here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I think it made for some great racing tonight. It was fantastic, and we saw a couple of different sort of types of battles there. We saw the GT pros really going hammer and tong, and we saw the prototypes. It was a real strategy race, wasn't it? Because there was some big gaps there, but just keeping everybody honest. But let's have a word with a couple of the drivers now, Ewan.
Yes, let's start with Carter Kuninger, who now joins us in this one from 6th position today. Carter, we saw you had a bit of a problem a little bit early in the race. The first run through traffic didn't go so well for you. Just what happened as you were running through turn 2 and 3 there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I will have to say first, it's been a while since I've been in here, which is not necessarily a good thing. But yeah, it was just, honestly, I mean, first time through traffic there, just trying to get by. Usually I will just stay kind of single file, but I was kind of side by side with my teammate Jason there, and then we saw that spun McLaren on the outside, and I honestly thought, he was enough away from that McLaren that I wasn't going to hit him, and he just clipped the McLaren just barely and went right into me and spun me around. So honestly, just one of those really unfortunate incidents. I couldn't have done much about it. Yeah, I mean, that just caps off kind of the bad luck I've had here at these Japanese tracks.
So yeah, it's not been a great couple of races for you, but how are you expecting to bounce back throughout the European circuits? Is the championship still something you're thinking about, something that's still possible at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I'm still thinking about, especially because, I may or may not have the pace to actually go out there and win races, especially since the European and Australian tracks are definitely my weaker part of Autobahn. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I need to start getting podiums again. It's been a while. It's been, I think, 2 or 3 races now. I just need to find at least the podium, right? Because I mean, I can try to match pace of Billy and Jeffrey and even Tinsey every once in a while, and it's just one of those. I just gotta find some good luck. I gotta have some good luck my way. Gonna be unfortunate that I'm gonna have to miss the next round at Hungaroring because I will be chilling in Mexico instead. So like I told these guys, if somebody wants to pay to ship my rig down to Mexico, I will definitely race. But no, the rig's gonna be staying home. So unfortunately, gonna have to miss that one. Which does suck with a lot of these kind of not as good finishes I've had. It means that I'm going to have to take some at the end of the season. And yeah, I don't know. It'll be a stretch, but yeah, definitely just need to start finding the podium again. That's the big key.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing that over the next few weeks. We've got not in 2 weeks' time, of course, but after that, we look forward to seeing you back once more. But Carter, thanks very much for joining us, and yeah, we'll see you in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much. Carter Kuninger, 6th place here today at Motegi. Now, I think all of the class winners have joined us, so we will bring them in now, starting with Billy Smith, of course, race winner overall and in LMP2, of course. Billy, good to have you here once more. It's another race victory for you, 2 on the bounce now. This one in slightly different circumstances. Just what did you see of Jeffrey Hume throughout that race? Because all we saw was him suddenly going quite slowly and you overtaking him.
Yeah, so I didn't really know what happened. I actually was just talking to him, and obviously Jeffrey Ooms is an amazing driver. He's just so fast, and I was trying to do everything just to make sure it was at least if he was going to win, it was going to be an honest win, And he kept having a bunch of bad luck with traffic. It seemed like I was able to negotiate it a little bit better. It seemed, and keep him within shouting distance. And it seemed like he had a little bit of unfortunate luck with one of the GT cars and got some damage there. And it played in my hands.
Yeah, absolutely. It did. 2 wins on the bounce now. How are you feeling about your championship chances with this good run of form you're in?
It seems like it's going pretty well. So hopefully I'm not sure how the standings look like right now as far as drops and everything. But if we continue like this, then we'll be in good shape here in a few weeks.
Absolutely, those drops are something we have to figure out. But either way, these good runners results won't hurt. Excuse me, no doubt about that. Billy, thanks for coming to join us. Good driving from you once again, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much, Billy Smith. There joining us from the 1st place in the overall standings, and indeed in LMP2. Speaking of class winners, let's bring in another one. Ryan Wojcicki here from the GT Pro category, ending up winning that one. Ryan, a very exciting race in that category. Actually, stayed very close between all of you guys throughout that one. Just how was it trying to fight your way through the field here? Because you did have a lot of overtaking to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting one because for the first about 3/4 of my fuel tank, the car it was good where it's at. I didn't think I had the pace to really make any moves. It was kind of just to sit and wait for a mistake. But then that last quarter of a tank kicked in and the car just turned into a rocket ship. So I gotta dissect this setup to figure out what happened. But there was a point where after I got past Colin, and I think I set 3 or 4 purple laps for the class, just back to back to back. And I honestly, I don't even know what happened. The car was just, as soon as it got to low fuel, it was just hooked up.
And judging, obviously it's taken you a little while to get that race win, but judging by the performance here today, how likely is it that we'll be seeing you on the top step again in the final 5 races? How are you feeling about the prospects of repeating a race victory?
Well, the competition at the top between Haley, Ross, myself, and Gibson, who wasn't here today. I mean, we're all neck to neck every single race. I've kind of had like poor luck, I guess is a good way to put it, the first half of the season. So hopefully it comes back to me, and this is just a stepping stone.
Absolutely. Once again, great performance from you here today. Congratulations on the victory, and thanks very much for coming to join us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Ryan Wojcicki, who has joined us from the victory in GT Pro. Finally, we'll bring in Ryan Robertson once more from GT Am, winning here once again. Ryan, it was good to have you here. Victory on this occasion. Didn't have to, or at least from what it looked like for us, didn't have too much of a challenge here today. Is that what it felt like in the car? Did it feel like a bit of a cruisy day?
After the first 5 or so laps, once the incident happened behind me, and I got like a 4-second gap, it was a bit more cruising. I wanted to kind of stay with Mo and have a fun little battle, not fighting too hard, but enough to kind of keep me awake. It's a nighttime race. It's
yes,
it's easy to fall asleep. But no, I mean overall it was. I was watching the relative. The guys were staying, 4 to 6 seconds behind me, so I had to keep myself going, and that kept me honest because one mistake and I'm right back in there with them. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just talk to us a little bit about that, because I've been speculating myself all kind of season really. How do you guys approach fighting GT Pro cars? Because while it does matter in terms of points, you're not scoring points against them, if you see what I mean. So how do you approach those fights with those in the other category?
Yeah, it's all based on kind of my pace. I mean, I'm not gonna, if they have a run, I'm not gonna throw a huge defense or anything up against them. At the end of the day, as you just said, I'm fighting the AM drivers, not fighting the pro drivers, and losing a couple points is better than, getting spun or anything like that. And I've had some, unlucky streaks like every other race week. So again, just another kind of keeping it clean and, keeping it fair, but again, not throwing up the biggest defense if they have any sort of run against me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've certainly seen that so far. But congratulations once again. I think that's all that's left to say on P1 here today, Ryan. And thanks very much for coming to join us.
Thanks, S.
There we are. Good to hear from Ryan Robertson once again here from the GT3 AM victory, here today. Steve, been good to be back in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge for Twin Rim Motegi. We'll head off to the Hungaroring next for the home straight of this championship, really. 5 European races left to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to all of them. Hungaroring first. It's going to be a great battle, as we touched on in the race there. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be a difficult one for traffic management because it is tight, twisty, and there is only really one perfect line through a lot of that track. So it's going to be a good one to watch. But yeah, enjoyed this evening. Some good battling. Well done to Smith. Well done to all the podium finishers throughout. Well done to the GT Pros for a fantastic battle. Yeah, been some fantastic races in this season so far, so yeah, bring on Hungaroring for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be coming up in 2 weeks' time, of course, on Monday the 28th of March at 9:05 ET. That coming up at the Hungaroring. Tomorrow we have another Virtual Grip Network broadcast, so make sure you join us for that, 10 to 9 p.m. ET. It's the PGRO Premier Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway, so make sure you join us for that. But for now, this has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network, of course, and until we see you again in 2 weeks' time at the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, it's goodbye for now.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.